WTF? OMG? What's up, America? I'm your host, After Mojano, and as we continue to theorize on where the coronavirus came from with theory number 3, which is a Wuhan biosafety level 4 lab by accident, we will retain some of the evidence we talked about in the last episode with theory number 2, a Wuhan lab on purpose. So if you need to review, go ahead and rewatch that video. Theory number 3, Wuhan Lab by accident. The level 4 biosafety lab could have accidentally missed some steps in protocol when handling the deadly virus. The lab was built to study the most dangerous of diseases in order to prevent, diagnose, and treat. There are only about 45 of these worldwide and only one in China. There are several reasons to limit the number of these research facilities. One of them is obvious: the potential of a deadly virus escaping and infecting the public. The lab opened in 2018 when it finished all the necessary assessments that any biosafety level 4 lab would need. However, most lab accidents happen from human error. If the staff is unqualified, these safety measures would be put into place in vain. One worker at the lab was recorded as being quarantined from a bat bite well before the outbreak. The director of the lab has also been questioned due to her weak academic background. She's also been accused of selling animals to the wet market source from theory number 1. And this is not all that uncommon. There are several cases reported of this practice from Chinese scientists. Just in January 2020, one was put in jail for 12 years. The crime? Selling lab animals to the wet market. With COVID-19, we are seeing a chillingly similar scenario, including the theory spread by Chinese leaders that the pandemic in Wuhan was brought over by U.S. soldiers. We also know, after an emergency meeting on February 15th, the Chinese Commission of Tech and Science issued a warning that China needs to enhance its management of viruses and bioagents at all labs and research centers. They gave no explanation to why the notice was placed. Now the Chinese government is having trouble juggling whatever lies and truths they've been telling, especially for people like me, who find it hard to trust an authoritarian government in the first place, let alone one that has been caught covering up a bunch of lies. For U.S. businesses and institutions, we've got our own standard of safety precautions and procedures that protect the public. But we share the globe. And since we share the globe, must we then put some mandatory precautions with foreign countries who think differently than us about safety? And should we regulate them so there's no more accidents? But then again, without a free society, research of this kind at the lab is practically obsolete. If the government doesn't like the results from the lab, we've seen the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Republic of China time and time again change the truth to fit its own wants and needs. Chinese investors own about 2,400 U.S. businesses. And of course, 95% of pharmaceutical drugs used in the USA go through China. So we need to take this seriously. If we hold our own people and businesses accountable for the safety and well-being of the public, we must equally hold other countries accountable as well. In episode 3, we go over the timeline of cover-up and misinformation ordered by the CCP. While today's episode looks more closely at the possibility that it was an accident that the virus got out of the lab, it still does not excuse the fact that the Chinese government intimidated and arrested any Chinese doctors, scientists, attorneys, and reporters who tried to warn the public. Fortunately, some people agree. One law firm in Vegas issued a lawsuit to China accusing the Chinese government of engaging in a campaign of misinformation and lies. But it doesn't end there. There is now an international investigation, a bipartisan House resolution coming from the US that condemns the Chinese government over the handling of the coronavirus response. The resolution argues that the Chinese government made multiple serious mistakes in the early stages of the COVID-19 outbreak that heightened the severity and spread of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which include the Chinese government's intentional spread of misinformation to downplay the risks of the virus, a refusal to cooperate with international health authorities, internal censorship of doctors and journalists, and malicious disregard for the health of ethnic minorities. Ethnic minorities? I should explain the Chinese addition of labor camps for certain religious groups, especially Muslims, currently with over 1 million enrolled. These camps use a bogus rating system to allow a person to be released from the camps, bases ranging from their ability to speak Mandarin down to the way in which they bathe. Leaked classified documents show the labor camps are indeed re-education centers that force the ideology and behavior of the Chinese culture and have little to do with the Chinese workforce. Bottom line is, the CCP must know that the people in China are angry and want reform, and not all people come together with a common enemy. The government needed a common enemy with their people, and they chose the USA. Now, making the US the enemy, China has an excuse not only to get off the hook, but also to use their aggressive tactics towards hostility directed at the USA. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for more. I'm Afton Boggiano, and this is WTF OMG, What's Up America?